My sister's kids ruined my party and broke my $3,000 TV, so I left them without Christmas presents. Stay with me while I share how everything happened. And if this story connects with you, don't forget to show some love by liking, subscribing, and sharing it with people who enjoy these kinds of stories. My name is Zariah. I'm in my late 20s, and I've worked hard to build a life that I can be proud of. I don't come from money, so every little thing I own feels like an achievement. My apartment isn't huge, but it's mine, and I've filled it with things I saved up for, like my furniture, my decorations, and especially my brand new TV that I had bought as a reward to myself after getting a promotion at work. I love my friends and spend most of my time with them, but when it comes to family, things are complicated. My sister Annabelle and I aren't very close anymore. She has 2 kids, Mason, who's 7, and Chloe, who's 5, and to be honest, they're a handful. Wild, loud, and destructive. The kind of kids who don't just make a mess, they leave behind a disaster. Annabelle brushes it off, calling them spirited, but everyone else just calls them spoiled. Still, Annabelle always finds a way to push me into things. She guilt-trips me, saying, "Family is supposed to stick together," whenever I hesitate to host family events. And somehow, every holiday or special occasion, I end up opening my home to everyone. My friends have noticed it too, how Annabelle seems to take advantage of me. But I guess I never knew how to say no without looking like the bad guy. That year, I wanted to do something special. I had been planning a holiday party for weeks. I decorated every corner of my apartment with twinkling lights, scented candles, and a beautiful tree I had picked out myself. I wrapped thoughtful presents for my friends, cooked food, and even put together a playlist that mixed holiday classics with fun songs. It wasn't just about the celebration. It was about making my home a place people felt warm and welcome in. But deep down, I already felt a pit in my stomach. I knew Annabelle would bring her kids, and I knew she wouldn't watch them. I had asked her more than once to please talk to them about respecting my things, but she just laughed and said, "Oh, come on, they're just kids. You worry too much." That response never gave me comfort, because every time I ended up cleaning up spills, broken decorations, or crayon marks on my walls after they left. This party meant so much to me, and I wanted it to be perfect. My friends deserved a good time, and honestly, I wanted to enjoy myself too. Still, a small voice in the back of my mind kept warning me. One wrong move from Mason and Chloe, and everything could go downhill fast. And little did I know, that night would change more than just my party. It would change how I saw my sister, my family, and myself. The night of the holiday party finally came, and I was nervous but excited. My apartment looked beautiful, the food was laid out, music played softly in the background, and my friends were already arriving with big smiles and bottles of wine. For a little while, everything felt perfect. People were laughing, complimenting the decorations, and telling me how cozy the place felt. I wanted it to stay that way. But of course, Annabelle was late. She always was. When she finally showed up, she didn't even look apologetic. She walked in with Mason and Chloe dragging their coats on the floor and already bickering with each other. They didn't even stop to say hello. They ran straight into the living room, yelling loud enough to drown out the music. My friends glanced at me, some with awkward smiles, others with raised brows, but I tried to brush it off. Annabelle dropped her purse on the table and sighed dramatically. "Traffic was insane," she said, though she lived barely 20 minutes away. I offered her a drink, but before I could even finish my sentence, Chloe was tugging at the ornaments on my Christmas tree, and Mason had kicked off his shoes in the middle of the hallway. "Annabelle," I said quietly, leaning toward her, "can you please ask them to calm down? They're kind of all over the place." She waved her hand like I was overreacting. "Relax, Zariah. They're kids. They'll settle down." Except they didn't. Within minutes, Mason was jumping from the couch onto the rug, pretending the floor was lava, while Chloe climbed onto a chair and tried to reach for the candy dish I'd set out for guests. My heart sank as I watched them, because this was exactly what I had been afraid of. I tried again, firmer this time. "Annabelle, seriously, they can't be climbing on furniture. I just got some of this stuff." But she just rolled her eyes. "You're too uptight. Let them have fun. It's the holidays." Some of my friends were exchanging glances now, whispering to each other. A couple of them even tried to play along with Mason and Chloe, redirecting their energy into games that wouldn't wreck the apartment. But the kids didn't listen. They were too wound up, feeding off each other's chaos. I laughed nervously and tried to keep the mood light, but inside I was frustrated. I could see the way my friends noticed the tension, and it embarrassed me. This was supposed to be a joyful evening, and instead I was babysitting children who weren't even mine while their mother sipped wine and acted like nothing was wrong. I forced a smile and kept checking the food, pretending I wasn't on edge. But deep down, I could feel the storm brewing. The kids were already pushing limits, and I knew it was only a matter of time before something went terribly wrong. At some point during the night, I realized Mason and Chloe had slipped away from the group. The noise in the kitchen was lively, friends laughing, glasses clinking, music playing. But when I glanced into the living room, I noticed the silence there was the dangerous kind. My heart sank. I knew instantly they were up to something. I walked closer and froze. Mason had already pulled wrapping paper off a stack of gifts I'd carefully arranged under the tree. The shiny paper I'd chosen to match the decorations was ripped into shreds all over the floor. Chloe was standing on her tiptoes, knocking ornaments off the lower branches, giggling as they shattered against the hardwood. "Hey, stop!" I called out, rushing over. But before I could reach them, Mason grabbed a juice box from the coffee table and squeezed it like a water gun, spraying sticky liquid across the rug and onto the presents. A couple of glasses of wine sitting nearby tipped over, spilling dark red streaks across my white table runner. "Are you kidding me?" I gasped, trying to grab the juice box out of his hand. Chloe squealed and darted toward the toy basket I had set out to keep them occupied earlier. She grabbed a plastic car, wound her arm back, and before I could stop her, she launched it across the room. The toy slammed into my brand new television. The crack was sharp, followed by a horrible spiderweb pattern spreading across the screen. My stomach dropped as if the floor had opened up beneath me. That TV wasn't just an appliance. It was the one big thing I had splurged on, the thing I'd promised myself after years of grinding at work. I stood there, numb, watching the screen flicker and die. The room went dead quiet. My friends had all turned toward the sound, their laughter cut off mid-sentence. I could see their shock painted across their faces. A couple of people muttered under their breath. Others just stared wide-eyed at me, waiting for me to explode. Annabelle walked in at that moment, wine glass in hand. She glanced at the shattered TV, then at her kids, who were now giggling like they had just pulled off the greatest prank in the world. I expected her to gasp, to apologize, to at least scold them. Instead, she shrugged. "Oh, come on, Zariah. They're just kids." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My chest tightened, my hands shaking as I looked at her. They just destroyed a $3,000 TV. She rolled her eyes as if I were being dramatic. "It's not the end of the world. You can afford another one. Stop making it such a big deal." I stood there speechless, surrounded by guests who didn't know what to say, staring at the broken glass of the TV screen. In that moment, I realized this night had just turned into something I'd never forget. My voice was shaking as I turned to Annabelle. "You need to pay for this. That TV cost me $3,000. Your kids broke it. You have to take responsibility." Her expression didn't change. She just took another sip of her wine before answering. "Zariah, please. You make way more money than I do. You can easily buy yourself another one. Don't act like this is the end of the world." I blinked at her, stunned. "Excuse me? That's not the point. It's about respect. Your kids destroyed something expensive that I worked hard for. You can't just brush this off." She crossed her arms, her tone sharp now. "Well, maybe you shouldn't put fragile things where kids can reach them. It's your fault for not making your home child-friendly." The words hit me like a slap. I looked around the room, searching for someone to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. My friends were watching, all clearly uncomfortable, but finally one of them, Marcus, spoke up. "Annabelle, come on. That's not fair. They didn't just bump into it, they threw stuff at it. You can't put that on Zariah." Another friend chimed in. "She's right. Those kids went wild, and you didn't even try to stop them. Zariah's not wrong for expecting you to at least acknowledge that." Annabelle's face turned red, but instead of showing guilt, she doubled down. She stood up and grabbed Mason and Chloe by their arms. "You know what? I'm not going to sit here and be ganged up on. You're all siding with her because she's Miss Perfect with her fancy apartment and big paycheck. She always thinks she's better than everyone else." "Annabelle, that's not—" I started, but she cut me off. "No, Zariah. You're selfish. You've always been selfish. And now you're punishing me for not having what you have." She snatched up her purse, her voice rising. "Come on, kids. We're leaving." Clearly, Aunt Zariah doesn't care about family. Mason and Chloe, still giggling as if they hadn't just destroyed the most expensive thing in my home, trailed after her. The door slammed behind them, leaving a hollow silence in their wake. I sank onto the couch, staring at the ruined screen in front of me. The cracks across the TV seemed to stretch wider the longer I looked at them, each one cutting into me like a reminder. I didn't just lose a television tonight. I lost any illusion that my sister respected me. My friends tried to comfort me, but I could barely hear their words. All I could think about was the look on Annabelle's face, the way she had turned everything back on me, like I was the one in the wrong. Hours later, after everyone had left, I sat alone in the dim glow of the Christmas lights. The laughter from earlier felt like it had happened in another lifetime. The silence pressed heavy on my chest, and for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about broken glass. It was about a broken bond that might never be fixed. The days after the party felt heavy. Every time I walked past the living room, the broken television sat there like a wound I couldn't ignore. I thought maybe, just maybe, Annabelle would calm down and call to apologize, or at least offer to help replace it. But instead, she did the opposite. By Monday morning, the phone calls started. My mom, Linda, was the first. Her voice had that mix of worry and scolding I'd heard 1,000 times growing up. "Zariah, honey, I heard about what happened at the party. Annabelle told me you're demanding she pay for some fancy television." I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. "It's not just some fancy television, Mom. It was mine. I bought it with my own money, and her kids destroyed it." There was a pause, then a sigh. "I know you're upset, but it's Christmas. Do you really want to fight about material things during the holidays? Kids don't know any better." "Mom, they weren't toddlers." Mason threw a toy at it. Chloe was tearing things apart. And Annabelle didn't even care. She blamed me for having nice things in my own home. My voice cracked, but I forced it steady. "How is that okay?" Mom didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her tone was softer but no less dismissive. "Just let it go. Family is more important than stuff. You can always buy another one." That sentence stuck in my head long after we hung up. Family is more important than stuff. But wasn't respect part of family? Wasn't accountability? The next day, my brother Eric called. He usually tried to stay neutral in family drama, so I thought maybe he'd understand. But he didn't. "Z, I heard you blew up at Annabelle over a TV. Come on, it's not worth it." "Not worth it?" I snapped. "Eric, it cost me $3,000. Do you know how long I saved up for that? And she refuses to even admit it was wrong." He groaned. "Look, Annabelle doesn't have it easy with 2 kids. You don't get it. Just drop it for now. It's Christmas, and Mom's already stressed enough. Don't add more fuel." I could feel my chest tightening, anger and hurt mixing together. "So I'm just supposed to stay quiet and eat the loss?" "Yeah," he said flatly. "Sometimes that's what family does." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, I scrolled through messages from cousins and aunts, realizing Annabelle had twisted the story. She told everyone I had screamed at her kids, that I cared more about a television than my niece and nephew, that I acted heartless. Reading those words made my stomach churn. It wasn't just about the TV anymore. It was about being painted as someone I wasn't, about my own family seeing me as materialistic instead of recognizing the truth. I felt cornered, alone, and more betrayed than ever. And with every call and message, the resentment inside me grew deeper, heavier, impossible to ignore. I spent the next few days replaying everything in my head. The broken TV, the phone calls, the way everyone kept telling me to let it go. At first, I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I should just stay quiet, replace the TV, and move on. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I felt, not just about the television, but about everything leading up to it. This wasn't the first time Annabelle had taken advantage of me. Far from it. I started listing it out in my mind. How many times had I been the emergency babysitter when she wanted to go out? Too many to count. I had canceled plans, left work early, even given up weekends because she swore she had no one else to call. And it wasn't just babysitting. There were the times she was short on rent and asked me to help cover her bills. The times she forgot to buy groceries and sent me to pick up milk and snacks for her kids. The birthdays and Christmases where I went overboard with gifts because she said she couldn't afford much, and I didn't want Mason and Chloe to feel left out. It hit me hard. I'd been her safety net for years. Every single time she needed something, I was the one who stepped up. And instead of gratitude, what did I get? A broken TV, a sister who called me selfish, and a family who acted like I was the villain. The realization stung, but it also made something inside me snap. This wasn't just about one ruined night. This was about the pattern. About the way Annabelle treated me like I didn't matter unless I was doing something for her. I sat in my quiet apartment, looking at the pile of wrapped gifts I had bought for other family members. My hand hovered over the shopping bags I had tucked away in my closet, the ones with toys and clothes I had already purchased for Mason and Chloe. For years, I had been the fun aunt who spoiled them, who made sure they never felt like they were missing out. But why? Their mother never appreciated it. The kids never respected me or my home. And now, even my generosity had been twisted against me. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about pulling back. I felt clear, firm. I wasn't going to keep rewarding bad behavior, not from Annabelle and not from her kids. I picked up the bags, pulled out the gifts, and returned them the next day. It felt strange, but also freeing. I knew it would shock everyone when Christmas came and Mason and Chloe didn't have presents from me under the tree. The family would whisper, maybe even call me heartless again. But I was done being their doormat. This year, I wasn't giving Annabelle or her kids anything. And for once, I didn't feel bad about it. I felt strong. Christmas Eve arrived faster than I expected, and with it came a pit in my stomach. Mom's house smelled like cinnamon and roast turkey when I walked in, and the living room was crowded with family, laughter, and piles of brightly wrapped gifts under the tree. Normally, I would have felt excited, maybe even proud to watch Mason and Chloe's faces light up when they opened the presents I picked for them. But this year was different. This year, I had made a choice. We all gathered in a circle as Mom handed out gifts. Wrapping paper tore, ribbons flew, and the room buzzed with the joyful chaos of Christmas. My cousins unwrapped sweaters and games, my brother Eric opened a new set of headphones, and even Mom smiled wide at the cookbook I had picked out for her. Then came the moment I had been waiting for. Annabelle's kids sat in front of the tree, surrounded by boxes and bags from everyone else. They opened gifts from Mom, from Eric, from an aunt and uncle. But when the pile was finished, Mason looked around and frowned. "Where's Aunt Zariah's gift?" Chloe pouted, tugging on Annabelle's sleeve. "Yeah, Aunt Z, where's ours?" The room quieted. Eyes turned toward me. I could feel the tension build as Annabelle's smile froze on her face. She looked at me sharply. "Zariah, you didn't bring anything for them?" I kept my voice calm, steady. "No, I didn't." The silence broke instantly. Annabelle shot up from her chair, her voice rising so fast it startled the little ones still playing with their toys. "Are you serious right now? You're punishing my kids because you're mad at me? They're innocent. How could you do this to them on Christmas?" Her words cut through the room, and I saw heads turn, waiting for me to explain. My hands were folded in my lap, but inside my chest, my heart pounded. Still, I held my ground. "I'm not punishing anyone," I said, my tone even. "But Mason and Chloe destroyed the gifts I bought when they broke my television. That was $3,000, Annabelle. And instead of apologizing or taking responsibility, you blamed me. I'm done rewarding that kind of behavior." Gasps came from around the room. A cousin muttered, "Oh wow," under their breath. Annabelle's face flushed red, her jaw tight. "They're kids, Zariah," she shouted. "You don't withhold Christmas from kids." I looked her straight in the eye. "Kids or not, actions have consequences. You can call it cruel, but I call it boundaries. I'm not teaching them it's okay to destroy other people's things and get away with it." Annabelle's mouth opened and closed like she wanted to scream but couldn't find the words. The kids sat frozen, confused by the tension. Around us, the tree lights blinked, almost mocking the silence that followed. For the first time, I didn't back down. I simply sat there, calm and unshaken, while Annabelle fumed. The moment I finished speaking, Annabelle exploded. Her voice rose above the chatter of the kids playing with their toys, above the hum of Christmas music in the background. "You are cruel, Zariah. Absolutely cruel. Who does this to their own niece and nephew? You've always been jealous of me, jealous that I have a family and you don't. This is just your way of getting back at me." Her words stung, but not because they were true, because they weren't. They were twisted lies, the kind she had been throwing at me for years to make me feel small. For a second, I felt that familiar urge to shrink back, to stay quiet so the fight would die down. But not this time. I stood up, my hands trembling but my voice steady. "Jealous? Annabelle, are you kidding me? Do you know how many times I've been there for you when no one else was? When you couldn't pay rent, who slipped you money so your kids didn't go without? When you wanted a night out, who canceled plans so you could drop Mason and Chloe off at the last minute? When you said you couldn't afford Christmas or birthdays, who made sure those kids still had gifts to open? Me. Always me. Her eyes narrowed, but I kept going, my voice rising with each word. And do you know what I got in return? Nothing but excuses. Nothing but you acting like I owe you my time, my money, my energy. And now, when your kids destroy something I worked hard for, you don't apologize. You don't offer to make it right. You blame me. You tell everyone I'm selfish. Well, I'm done being your doormat. The room was dead silent except for the crackle of the fireplace. My mom looked stunned, Eric stared down at the floor, and my cousins whispered to each other nervously. Annabelle's face was red with rage, her fists clenched at her sides. You're pathetic, she spat. You think just because you make some money and buy yourself nice things, you're better than everyone else. Newsflash, Zariah, you're alone. You'll always be alone. Her words should have cut me, but instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, relief. I finally said everything I had bottled up, and I wasn't going to take it back. I met her glare with a calm I didn't know I had. I'd rather be alone than let you keep using me. At least now I know my worth, and I won't let you take advantage of me anymore. Annabelle stomped toward the door, dragging Mason and Chloe with her. Fine. You can have your perfect little life without us. Don't ever expect to see me or my kids again. The door slammed, rattling the picture frames on the wall. I stood there, my chest heaving, but I didn't feel weak. For once, I hadn't folded under her accusations. I hadn't backed down. And even though the room was tense and quiet, I felt strangely free. As soon as Annabelle stormed out, dragging Mason and Chloe behind her, the room erupted into whispers and shifting voices. Some relatives rushed to gather the kids' torn wrapping paper off the floor. Others looked at me with expressions that ranged from sympathy to disapproval. The warmth of Christmas Eve had vanished, replaced with a tension so thick you could feel it pressing down on everyone. Mom broke the silence first. Zariah, did it really have to come to this? Her voice was tight, like she was torn between scolding me and defending me. Before I could respond, one of my cousins, Heather, spoke up. Honestly, Aunt Linda, Zariah's not wrong. Annabelle's kids are out of control. Everyone knows it. That comment was enough to spark a divide. Another cousin muttered, Still, it's Christmas. You don't just refuse kids presents. Aunts and uncles started talking over each other, some saying I was cruel, others quietly nodding in my direction, as if to say they finally understood. Eric kept his eyes on the floor, clearly uncomfortable, while Mom shook her head, trying to calm everyone down. But the damage was already done. The holiday wasn't about joy anymore, it was about sides. And for once, I wasn't shocked to see how quickly the family fractured. When I finally decided to leave, I could still hear the echoes of the argument as I put on my coat. The cold air outside felt cleaner than the stuffy tension I left behind. Driving home, I knew Christmas Eve would never feel the same again. Later that night, my phone lit up with notifications. The first messages came from relatives siding with Annabelle. One aunt called me cold-hearted. Another texted, Punishing children for their mother's mistakes isn't right. You should have thought about the kids, not the TV. Each message added another sting, like little cuts that reopened old wounds. But then, slowly, the other kind of messages started trickling in. My cousin Heather texted, Don't let them guilt you. Annabelle has always used you. Tonight was just the first time you finally stood up for yourself. Another cousin messaged quietly, admitting they'd stopped inviting Annabelle to their place years ago because of the chaos she brought. The mix of criticism and support left me torn. Part of me ached from the names I was being called, from the accusations that I had somehow ruined Christmas. But another part of me felt a strange calm I hadn't expected. For the first time, I had drawn a line and stuck to it. I sat on my couch that night, staring at the broken TV in the corner, the cracks glinting under the faint glow of my Christmas lights. It should have made me feel worse, but instead I felt lighter. Hurt, yes, but also free. Annabelle might never forgive me, and the family might stay divided, but I finally chose myself over being walked on. And deep down, that felt like the beginning of something better. Weeks slipped by after that unforgettable Christmas Eve, but the echoes of the fight still lingered in the family. Calls were shorter, group chats quieter, and Annabelle had gone radio silent with me. I thought maybe she had finally decided to leave me alone. But one chilly afternoon in January, my phone buzzed with her name flashing across the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice came sugary at first, but I could hear the tension underneath. Hey, Zariah, so, the kids need some school supplies and things are tight right now. I was hoping you could help out. Just a couple hundred, nothing major. For a moment, I almost laughed at the audacity. The same sister who'd called me selfish and cruel, the same one who had dismissed my shattered $3,000 TV as kids being kids, was now asking me for money as if nothing had happened. I took a deep breath, steady and calm. Annabelle, do you remember that night? The TV your kids destroyed? You brushed it off, told me I could afford it. Well, I'm still affording it. So no, I won't be giving you a dime. There was silence on the line, then a sharp exhale. Wow, so you're really going to hold a grudge over a TV, she snapped. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even let the anger rise. It's not about the TV anymore. It's about respect. And I'm done being your safety net. You'll have to figure it out on your own. She hung up without another word. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't replay the conversation in my head, wondering if I was too harsh. Instead, I felt something new, peace. That weekend, I finally did something for myself. I walked into the electronics store, found a TV bigger and better than the one that had been destroyed, and swiped my card without hesitation. As the delivery crew set it up in my living room, I couldn't help but smile. It wasn't just a television. It was a symbol of my hard work, my independence, and the fact that I wasn't going to let anyone, not even family, rob me of what I had earned. Later that night, I curled up on my couch, a warm blanket over me, the glow of the new screen filling the room. For once, there was no background noise of guilt, no heavy weight of obligation pressing down on me. Just me, my peace, and the simple joy of enjoying what I had worked so hard for. It was bittersweet, knowing that setting boundaries meant creating distance. But as I watched the crisp, bright picture flash across the screen, I knew this was the right choice. My peace of mind was worth more than keeping toxic family happy. And for the first time in years, I stood tall, no longer a doormat, but a woman who finally chose herself. Do you believe Zariah made the right choice by standing her ground against her sister? Or should she have given in for the sake of family peace? Share your thoughts down below. I'd really love to hear them. And if you enjoy these kinds of stories, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one.